Shalom, good evening. This is TV7 Israel News broadcast to you from Jerusalem. And in today's top stories, the United States says that progress has been made in talks for a ceasefire between Israel and the Iranian-proxy Hezbollah. The Islamist Hamas terror group says it will not release the hostages unless Israel effectively accepts defeat. Israel pledges to fight on against Iran and its terror proxies, irrespective of the ICC issuing an arrest warrant for both Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant. Jerusalem's defense establishment continues to confront Iran's belligerence as the Islamic Republic's regional proxies engage in a seven-front war against Israel. Dozens of rockets were launched toward northern Israel throughout the day as Hezbollah continues to try to harm Israeli civilians, deliberately targeting civilian communities, including last night in particular when it fired over 5 rockets toward the densely populated city of Haifa and its Bay Area. And while the majority of projectiles were successfully intercepted, 3 civilians regrettably sustained light injuries as they were rushing to seek shelter. They were taken to Haifa's Rambam Hospital for treatment. Nevertheless, it is important to know that there is a significant decrease in the average number of projectiles which the Iranian-proxy Hezbollah succeeds to launch at Israel every day, with IDF Northern Command Commander Major General Ori Goldin telling his field commanders that the focused fire on Hezbollah's own firing capabilities is seemingly bearing fruit.
We are in the midst of the attack in this sector. The offensive has brought about very good achievements up until now. You have a big part in this. Let's start with the fire efforts against the munitions of the Hezbollah organization, which dramatically diminished their arsenal.
General Goldin went on to reiterate the objective of Northern Command in Lebanon.
We are subject to the objective of creating conditions for the return of the northern residents of Israel to their homes with security. This objective is important and moral, and it is the basis for the objectives of Northern Command, which is to protect the residents.
Meanwhile, U.S. Special Envoy Amos Hochstein concluded his visit to Israel after 2 subsequent meetings with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz, alongside IDF Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi, respectively.
We have made significant progress, and that an agreement is within reach, but it's going to take decisions by both parties, by both Israel and Lebanon, to actually get an agreement, and that's what we're going to continue to push for. We want to see the full implementation of UN Security Council Resolution 1701, so both Israelis and Lebanese civilians can return to their homes.
Prior to meeting with the American emissary, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz visited an IDF Intelligence Director at base in central Israel, during the course of which he initially addressed the importance of the intelligence community, while further highlighting the complexities presented in the war versus Hamas in the Gaza Strip.
I am visiting here on one of my first visits to the IDF because here lies the ability that grants Israel the comparative advantage over all of the arenas we are currently confronting. If I take the last Operation Days of Repentance in Iran, the intelligence was the basis and infrastructure for the planning ability and the Air Force's ability to operate in an amazing and precise manner, and to hit targets in a way that was effective and that stunned the Iranians and the enemy. Regarding Gaza, the situation is complex. The hostages are the highest priority from a moral perspective, and the top goal as part of which we are trying in every possible way to bring them home. The enemy there is an enemy that is unusual even in relation to the other enemies who all engrave the destruction of Israel on their flag. We will have to act in every way to achieve the goals and return the hostages and ensure that Hamas will not be there the day after. In all other arenas, it is black and white. We need to be on the side of the capable and the good, and they are on the side of the bad and the failed, and you need to make the unique contribution so that we can achieve that.
While the IDF continues to make tactical and operational gains throughout the Gaza Strip, with Division 162 destroying approximately 300 structures rigged with hundreds of explosives in the Jabalia area alone, efforts to pressure Hamas to accept a viable outline for the release of the remaining 101 hostages in captivity remains evasive. The acting leader of the Islamist terror group Hamas, namely Khalil al-Hayya, who is believed to be hiding in Turkey currently, has announced that Hamas does not intend to return the hostages unless Israel accepts defeat and withdraws from the Gaza Strip entirely.
It is a balanced equation. We say very clearly that we want this aggression to stop. If the aggression is not ended, why would the resistance, and in particular Hamas, return the hostages? Why would we return the Israeli captives in our hands if the war continues? How would a sane or an insane person lose a strong card he owns while the war is continuing?
The terror leader went on to note that efforts to renew negotiations after Qatar failed to pressure Hamas to accept an outline for a deal are ongoing.
There are contacts underway with some countries and mediators to revive this file negotiation. We are proactive, flexible, and ready to continue with those efforts with the aim of stopping the aggression and reaching a reciprocal deal in accordance with the Security Council resolution and previous agreements. But it is more important to see a real will on the side of the occupation to end the aggression.
Meanwhile, in the Kingdom of the Netherlands, the International Criminal Court in The Hague defied its mandate by accepting the recommendations by its chief prosecutor, Karim Khan, issuing arrest warrants for Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, former Defense Minister Yoav Gallant, and Hamas's slain arch-terrorist Mohammed Deif, an unprecedented decision that the Western-funded Palestinian Authority has warmly welcomed.
Today, we think that the course of justice is being rectified, and we hope that accountability will be effectuated very soon rather than later.
In response to the ICC's decision to produce the arrest warrants for Netanyahu and Gallant, which a number of Western democracies have immediately committed to abide by, were received in Israel with outrage.
The anti-Semitic decision of the International Court in The Hague is a modern Dreyfus trial, and it will end the same way. 130 years ago, the French Jewish officer Alfred Dreyfus was falsely accused of treason by a biased French court. In response to these false accusations, the great French writer Émile Zola wrote his monumental essay, J'accuse. He accused the French court of anti-Semitic lies against an innocent officer who was later exonerated of all guilt. Now an international court in The Hague, also headed by a French judge, is repeating this outrageous offense.
While Israel managed to reach unprecedented lows in the terrorist-to-civilian mortality ratio with a staggering estimate of a 1-to-1 ratio as opposed to a 9 civilians to 1 combatant ratio per recorded at the United Nations, nevertheless, the UN court blatantly claimed, absent any necessary facts, that Netanyahu and Gallant adopted a policy of deliberately targeting civilians. Moreover, despite Israeli deliveries of over 700,000 tons of food entering the Gaza Strip during the course of the war, despite Hamas regularly looting much of the routinely incoming aid, the ICC judges absurdly accused both Netanyahu and Gallant of adopting a deliberate policy of starvation.
No biased anti-Israel decision in The Hague will prevent the State of Israel from defending its citizens. And I want to thank our many friends around the world, especially those in the United States, who have condemned this outrage and who have said that this decision will have severe consequences for the ICC and those who cooperate with its decision. Israel will not recognize the validity of this decision. We will continue to do everything we must do to defend our citizens and defend our state against Iran's axis of terror, Iran and its terrorist proxies, which include Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, and others. Our enemies are your enemies, and our victory will be your victory, the victory of civilization over barbarism and tyranny.
It is important to know that while a number of nations committed to abide by the court's arrest warrants, to include Canada, Spain, Ireland, and France, Germany and Italy, on the other hand, have noted that they would initially study the court's decision before taking any measures, while on the other hand, Hungary, Argentina, and the United States rejected the ICC's decision outright, with designated National Security Advisor, Congressman Mike Waltz, pledging, quote, "You can expect a strong response to the anti-Semitic bias of the ICC and UN come January." Thank you for watching TV7 Israel News. I would like to encourage you, pray for the peace of Jerusalem and salvation of Israel. Moreover, if you're blessed by our productions, which are exclusively donation-based and as such broadcast free of charge, please consider making a donation. You can do so via our website at www.tv7israelnews.com. I'm Jonathan Hessen, wishing you a Shabbat Shalom u'Mevorach, and God willing, we will see you during our next update. Until then, Shalom from Jerusalem.